Maya was just a small human child, no older than 6, with short brown hair and a piece of broken white chalk in her hand. She walked inside the grand alien palace as if it were an empty playground. Guards in heavy armor froze the moment they saw her. They looked at one another, confused and afraid. No human child had ever entered the emperor's palace, and especially not the sacred hallway that even nobles feared to walk through. Yet Maya stepped on the shining blue floor tiles with her tiny shoes, humming softly like nothing was wrong. The palace walls were tall and curved like ancient cliffs. Strange carvings ran along them, deep lines cut by hands older than memory. Most people believed the carvings belonged to the old dragons, a race that vanished thousands of years ago. No one had ever been able to fully understand their symbols. Even the best alien scholars failed to read them. But Maya just stared at the walls with bright eyes, tilting her head like a curious puppy. To her, the carvings looked empty, like something was missing. She lifted her chalk and pressed it softly against the stone. The sound of chalk scraping echoed through the silent hall. Every guard flinched. Many wanted to shout to stop her, but nobody dared to move. Maya expertly began to draw shapes and lines. Not random childish doodles, but long curling symbols that fit perfectly into the empty spaces in the carvings. As if her hand knew exactly where each line must go. She didn't hesitate. She didn't think. She drew as naturally as breathing. Her small hand moved in smooth circles, straight lines, and flowing patterns. At first, nothing happened. Then the chalk lines began to glow with a warm golden light. The stone wall pulsed as if waking from a long sleep. A faint vibration moved across the floor. The guards stepped back in fear. One of them whispered, "What is she doing? How does she know those shapes?" Another replied, "That is impossible. Only dragons could write runes like that." But Maya didn't hear them. She only felt something pulling her forward, like the wall itself wanted her to continue. With every new line she drew, the carvings on the wall lit up brighter. The shapes connected into one large symbol that wrapped across the entire wall like a giant sleeping serpent. Dust fell from the ceiling as the palace trembled lightly. Maya smiled, wiping sweat from her forehead. She whispered, "There, it feels better now." She had no idea that the runes she completed were ancient dragon runes, lost for centuries, feared by entire galaxies. To her, it was just drawing, just play. At the far end of the hall, the emperor himself arrived. He wore long silver robes and moved with a proud, slow stride. But when he saw the glowing wall and the tiny human girl still drawing more patterns, his face turned pale. This hall was forbidden. It held secrets so old and dangerous that even he had never touched the symbols. Historians spent lifetimes trying to translate them. But the child, the human child, was completing them like it was a simple picture book. "Maya," the emperor said softly, but she didn't stop. She kept drawing. The runes glowed brighter and brighter until the entire hall felt warm like the breath of a giant creature. One guard shouted, "Your Majesty, the wall is waking." The emperor raised his hand to silence him. He walked closer, but the moment he stepped near the glowing runes, the light pushed him back gently like an invisible wall. The symbols only allowed Maya to be close. Every alien inside the room understood one thing. This human child was connected to something ancient and powerful. Maya suddenly paused. She looked up at the glowing wall, her eyes wide with surprise. "It's talking," she whispered. The guards gasped. They could hear nothing. But Maya heard a soft, deep voice inside her head, warm like fire and old like mountains. It said, "Little one. Thank you." Maya smiled again. "You're welcome." The palace walls shook harder. The carvings around the glowing lines cracked open slightly, as if something behind the stone wanted to stretch. A faint echo like the soft beat of a dragon's heart filled the hall for a moment. The guards stepped back in terror. One dropped his spear. Another whispered, "Is it alive? Is a dragon coming back?" Maya touched the wall gently. Her tiny fingers glowed with golden light. She said in her soft voice, "You're lonely, aren't you?" No one understood whom she was talking to. But the runes glowed brighter in answer. The emperor felt panic rising in his chest. If a dragon was truly waking, their entire empire might tremble again. Dragons were not just creatures, they were forces of nature. Yet the child showed no fear. The whole room slowly filled with the scent of warm ash. A shadow moved behind the stone, long and curved like a wing. The temperature in the hall rose. Maya felt it like a warm hug. She whispered, "It's okay. I'll finish the drawing." And she lifted her chalk again. The last line she drew was different from the others. The moment the chalk touched the stone, the entire wall flared with brilliant light. Everyone shielded their eyes. Even the emperor stumbled back. A deep humming filled the air, shaking every corner of the palace. Maya stood in the center of it all, glowing like a small sun. When the light faded, Maya was smiling proudly at her work. The guards stared at the wall, now alive with ancient magic. Nobody had the courage to speak. Everyone wondered one thing. How could a simple human child awaken runes no one had touched for 10,000 years? Maya turned around and giggled softly, as if she had only drawn a simple picture. "Can I have more chalk?" she asked. And the hall shook again as something behind the stone slowly began to move. The emperor ordered. The entire hallway sealed the moment Maya stepped away from the glowing wall. Heavy metal doors slammed shut behind the guards, trapping everyone inside with the strange golden runes. Maya didn't notice the tension. She simply dusted her chalk-covered hands and looked around with bright curiosity. To her, it still felt like a game. But to the aliens, it felt like the start of a disaster. The emperor approached slowly, as if he feared the child might explode with light again. His voice shook when he spoke. "Human child. What did you draw?" Maya blinked at him. "I don't know. The wall told me it was lonely, so I helped." Her answer made every scholar, every guard, and even the emperor stare in disbelief. Walls did not talk. Runes did not wake. And dragons were only spoken of in fearful legends. But the symbols she drew were glowing softly, warming the air like gentle fire. Several old historians rushed forward. Their eyes were wide with excitement and terror. One of them, a thin elder with trembling hands, bowed before the emperor. "Your Majesty, those runes, they match the ancient dragon script we found in ruins. But this wall, it was always incomplete. We never knew how to finish it." He turned to Maya, voice cracking. "Child, how did you know where to draw?" Maya shrugged. "It felt right. Like the wall was guiding my hand." Her innocence only made the room feel stranger. The emperor gestured for his advisors to speak quietly. They formed a tense circle, whispering fast. Maya stood alone in the glowing hall, humming to herself. The lines she had drawn pulsed like a heartbeat. Then the wall moved. A soft tremor rippled across the stone surface, as if a creature behind it shifted slightly in sleep. Dust fell from the ceiling. Every guard reached for their weapons at once. Maya, however, walked toward the wall again, as if greeting an old friend. The emperor called her name sharply, but the glowing rune barrier blocked him again, pushing him back gently. Only Maya could go near it. "Maya, step away!" A guard shouted. But the child didn't step away. Instead, she pressed her small palm against the warm surface. Golden light spread under her hand. The historians gasped. The emperor whispered, "The runes are responding to her soul. This child is a key." A low hum filled the hallway, deep, steady, ancient. It wasn't a sound the aliens heard with their ears. It was a sound that vibrated inside their bones. Maya tilted her head and whispered, "You're still talking. What do you want me to do?" Nobody else heard any voice, but they could feel something awakening. Something old. Something powerful. The Emperor finally ordered, "Bring the scholars. Bring the rune readers. Bring everyone who knows the legends, now." Guards hurried out of the hall, leaving a few standing guard around Maya like nervous statues. Moments later, the best historians entered, robed aliens with long scrolls, glowing pads, and relic tools. They surrounded the wall, studying every symbol the little girl had drawn. Their eyes filled with awe and fear. One whispered, "This is the dragon sentence, a command only dragons could cast." Another replied, "No dragon should be alive. Not after the Great War." A third stepped closer. "If this sentence is completed, it might awaken the Chamber of Fire." He looked at the Emperor with shaking hands. "That chamber was sealed before our species was born." The Emperor stared at Maya, feeling a chill run down his spine. "And a human child unsealed it by drawing?" Nobody had an answer. The wall trembled again, harder this time. A low growl, almost like a distant roar, echoed from deep inside the stone. The lights across the hall flickered. Some guards stepped back in fear. One dropped his weapon. Maya didn't look frightened. Instead, she whispered, "You're stuck, aren't you?" She pressed her ear to the wall, listening like a child listening to a seashell. "I'll try to help more." The moment she lifted her chalk again, the Emperor panicked. "Stop her!" he shouted. But the runes flared brightly, forming a protective circle. No one could go closer, no matter how hard they tried. Maya was alone with the glowing wall. Her small hand ready to draw another line that could change everything. The scholars argued desperately. If she completes the symbols, something ancient may break free. She must stop. No, she might be the only one who can control it. But Maya wasn't listening to any of them. She was listening to the voice only she could hear. And that voice was whispering urgently, "Finish it. Finish before the danger returns." The Emperor felt his heart sink. Danger? What danger? He did not have to wait long. The entire palace shook violently, as if something massive far beneath them had awakened. The lights shattered. Stone cracked. Even the Emperor stumbled. Maya pressed her hand against the glowing runes to keep her balance. The golden light intensified until it painted the whole hall in warm fire. Then everyone heard it. A soft thump. Then another. Slow, heavy, rhythmic, a heartbeat. A dragon's heartbeat. And it was coming from behind the wall. Everyone froze except Maya, who whispered with trembling excitement, "You're waking up, aren't you?" And behind the wall, the heartbeat grew louder, stronger, faster. The Emperor whispered, "If a dragon is alive, then the ancient threat may not be far behind." Maya lifted her chalk. The wall pulsed with fire, and the entire empire held its breath. The wall glowed brighter than before, filling the whole hallway with warm golden light. Maya stepped closer without fear, her small hand touching the runes that now pulsed like living veins. The aliens could only watch helplessly from behind the glowing barrier. None of them understood what was happening. None of them understood how a human child could command ancient dragon symbols as if she had known them forever. Maya's eyes widened when she felt a soft vibration under her palm. It wasn't just the wall shaking. It was a voice gentle, deep, and filled with sadness. It spoke inside her mind, not with words, but with feelings. She heard it say, "Finish." The last line. Maya whispered, "You want me to continue?" The glowing lines warmed beneath her fingers, answering yes. Behind her, the Emperor shouted for the guards to pull her away, but the rune barrier pushed them back again like a soft wave. They were powerless spectators. Maya was the only one allowed near the ancient magic. She picked up her chalk once more. The moment the chalk touched the wall, the runes flared with golden flames. Every alien gasped. The light twisted and wrapped around her small body like shining threads, but it did not burn her. Instead, it guided her hand, forming shapes she didn't fully understand. The historians watched with trembling hands. "This can't be real." One whispered, "Those are the last symbols of the dragon sentence. No living creature should know them." Another scholar shook his head in disbelief. "If she completes that sentence, the chamber of fire will open. Something sealed for 10,000 years will return." Maya didn't hear their panic. She only heard the soft whisper, now clearer. It was no longer just a feeling. It was a voice old, tired, and lonely. "Hurry, little one. I have waited so long." Her hand moved faster, connecting the final curves of the rune. The wall suddenly cracked down the center with a deep sound, like ancient stone exhaling after centuries. Dust fell like snow. Everyone stepped back as the ground shook. A thin line of bright red light appeared between the cracked stones. It spread slowly like a burning thread. Maya stared in awe as the wall began to split apart, revealing a hidden chamber behind it. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of fire and ash. The scholars nearly fell to their knees. Impossible. The chamber of fire. It truly exists. Inside the chamber, something glowed in the darkness. Something large. Something alive. Maya took a small step forward, drawn by the soft pulsing light. The Emperor shouted, "Stop! Stay where you are." But Maya kept walking. Her little feet moved across the glowing floor, as if following an invisible path. When her eyes adjusted, she saw it. A huge egg sat in the center of the chamber. It was almost as tall as she was. Its shell was deep red, covered in old scars and glowing cracks. Strange patterns moved across its surface like slow rivers of fire. The egg pulsed with a heartbeat, slow, powerful, ancient. The guards stared with trembling fear. "A dragon egg," one whispered. "A real dragon egg." Another whispered, "But dragons were wiped out. This cannot be." Maya approached the egg quietly. Her chalk fell from her hand as she reached out. The moment her fingers touched the warm shell, the glow brightened, spreading like fire under her skin, but it did not hurt. Instead, she felt a rush of emotion, loneliness, pain, and hope mixed together. She whispered softly, "Were you waiting for me?" The egg trembled gently, as if answering yes. The Emperor stepped back in fear. If that egg hatches, our entire empire is doomed. But the oldest historian shook his head. "No, the runes say dragons connected with the pure-hearted. Only a pure soul can awaken them safely." The Emperor stared at Maya, realizing the truth. "And the purest soul in the room is the child." Maya pressed her forehead gently against the egg. The heartbeat inside sped up, growing stronger. The egg shook, glowing brighter and brighter. Then the voice spoke clearly in her mind, no sadness this time, only urgency. "Little one, danger comes. Awaken me." Maya gasped. "What danger?" The egg pulsed violently. A booming roar echoed from deep inside the palace, not from the chamber, but from far outside. The ground shook stronger than ever. Alarms blared across the palace. Guards ran toward the entrance in panic. The Emperor's eyes widened. "No, it can't be them. Not now." But Maya already understood. The whisper inside the egg filled her mind. "The enemy who hunted us has returned." The walls shook. The egg glowed like a rising sun. Maya took a deep breath. "I'll help you," she whispered. And the dragon inside the egg prepared to wake. The egg trembled again, stronger this time. Its surface cracked slightly near Maya's hand, releasing a faint glow that danced across her fingers. She stepped back a little, watching carefully, but she didn't look scared. The warmth coming from the egg didn't feel dangerous. It felt like something inside was trying to breathe after a long time. Behind her, the guards pointed weapons at the chamber, hands shaking. They had never seen a real dragon. Most believed dragons were myths. The rest hoped they were extinct. But now, in front of their eyes, a dragon egg was waking, and not to the call of their emperor or science, but to a human child. Maya whispered, "You're not alone anymore," and pressed her palm gently against the shell again. The glow moved in waves. Cracks spread along the surface slowly, forming a pattern like lightning frozen in time. The runes behind her flared, flashing once like a heartbeat. Suddenly, Maya could hear more than a whisper. The voice inside her mind became full, clear, and deep. It said, "I remember. I remember the sky burning. I remember fire. I remember betrayal." She closed her eyes and spoke softly, "You remember the war?" The egg answered through feelings. A sharp memory of skies filled with ships, of dragons screaming in pain, of fire being swallowed by darkness. Then silence. Long, cold silence. The emperor stepped forward now, fear mixed with urgency in his voice. "Child, back away. You're waking something that should stay buried." But the barrier still held. Maya looked over her shoulder at him and said quietly, "It doesn't want to hurt anyone. It's scared." The scholars looked at each other. One of them whispered, "The dragons were not just weapons. They were alive. They were protectors once. What if we were the ones who turned on them?" The egg cracked again, louder this time. A piece of shell dropped off and hit the floor, releasing a hiss of hot air. Maya didn't step back. She stayed close. The dragon inside was small, barely the size of a large dog, but its energy was heavy, ancient, deep. Two glowing golden eyes opened inside the egg, blinking slowly. They locked onto Maya, and for a long, silent moment, nothing else in the universe mattered. The tiny dragon stared at her, and she stared back, heart beating fast but steady. The emperor whispered, "Why her? Why does it look only at the child?" Then the egg cracked wide open. The baby dragon crawled forward slowly, wings tucked tight against its tiny body, legs trembling, scales shining like liquid fire. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. But it didn't roar. It didn't fly. It didn't strike. It collapsed softly at Maya's feet. The room fell completely silent. Maya knelt down, touched its head gently, and smiled. "You're tired, aren't you?" The dragon closed its eyes and leaned against her like a newborn finding its mother. The glowing runes pulsed once again, gently, calmly. The guards stared in disbelief. One of them whispered, "It chose her." The dragon opened one eye again, just slightly, and a glowing symbol appeared above its head, floating, spinning slowly in the air. The scholars gasped. "That's the mark of bonding," one of them said, stunned. "It's a dragon vow. It sees her as family." The emperor's face turned pale. "A dragon has bonded with a human?" He stepped forward again. "You don't understand what this means, child. If that creature trusts you, then you carry the weight of war." But Maya didn't respond to him. She was listening again. The dragon was sending her a message, not with words, but with pictures. She saw flashes of dark ships, sharp metal, screaming stars, an army in black armor, symbols that twisted in the air like smoke. Then she heard the words, "They are coming again." Maya looked up at the emperor and said quietly, "Something worse is coming. Something old. Something angry." The chamber began to grow cold. The glowing runes flickered. The air turned still, and the dragon lifted its head, eyes glowing, and whispered in a voice that echoed across every mind in the room, They are already here. The palace shook. And the sky above the capital began to darken. The sky over the alien capital turned dark as if night had fallen too early. Red streaks cut across the clouds like angry claws. Far above the palace, something massive blocked the sun. Dozens of alien ships rose to defend the empire, but their lights were swallowed by the shadow hanging over them. Inside the palace, the dragon opened its wings slowly. They weren't big yet, but something about them made the entire hall feel smaller. The light from its scales flickered like flame dancing on water. Maya stood beside the dragon, her small hand resting on its neck. It didn't move without her. It didn't even breathe without her calm. The guards didn't know whether to bow or run. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They were soldiers, but they were also seeing a legend come to life. One that should have never returned. The emperor stepped forward again, slower now, no longer shouting. "What did it say to you?" he asked Maya. She looked up at him with serious eyes. It said, "The same enemy that killed the dragons is coming again." Her voice shook, just slightly. It said they're already here. The scholars began speaking fast, arguing over ancient records, forgotten texts, trying to remember stories they thought were dead. One whispered, "Could it be the void swarm?" Another said, "No, worse. The black ships, the ones that turned dragons to stone." The dragon growled low. It didn't like those words. Maya reached out and placed her hand gently on its snout. "You're safe now," she said softly. The dragon relaxed under her touch, but its glowing eyes never stopped watching the dark sky above. Suddenly, the palace shook again, harder than before. Lights went out. A deafening alarm rang across the building. One of the guards checked his device and froze. "Enemy fleet just entered orbit," he said. "They bypassed all outer defenses. They're jamming communications." The emperor looked at Maya. "Can the dragon fight?" Maya looked down at the small creature. It looked fragile. It had only just been born. But the fire in its chest glowed brighter than anything she'd seen. The dragon looked back at her and nodded once. The emperor ordered the entire palace cleared. Only Maya, the dragon, a few brave guards, and the top scholars remained in the chamber of fire. The doors sealed behind them with a loud thud. The runes on the walls pulsed again, brighter now, spinning slowly like stars. One of the scholars gasped. "The runes. They're forming a map." On the glowing wall, an image appeared. A galaxy-wide map showing the locations of ancient dragon temples, hidden dragon eggs, and most importantly, the paths the enemy used long ago. Maya stared at it. "They knew this would happen again," she said. "The dragons. They left clues. They wanted someone to find them." The dragon climbed onto her back gently, wrapping its small body around her shoulders like a glowing scarf. It didn't feel heavy. It felt like wearing hope. The scholars stared in disbelief. One whispered, "She's not just a child anymore. She's the dragon speaker." Just then, a loud crash shook the palace. One of the outside towers fell. A dark ship had struck it like a blade. Flames rose. Screams echoed from the city. The emperor turned to Maya. "You don't have to do this. You're just a child." Maya shook her head. "No, I'm the one it chose. And if the others are in danger, we have to help." She stepped forward, past the guards, past the emperor, and toward the ancient gate at the back of the chamber. The dragon's light touched it, and the gate opened, revealing a path long forgotten. A launch tunnel made only for dragons. The emperor watched her leave in silence. As the child and the dragon disappeared into the tunnel, the runes behind them began to fade, their job complete for now. And high above the planet, in the cold dark space, the enemy ships began to descend. But this time, a dragon was awake. And it had chosen a human child to stand beside it. The launch tunnel opened into a wide, balcony carved high above the palace towers. Wind rushed in, cold and sharp, carrying the smell of smoke from the burning city below. Maya stepped out slowly, the baby dragon still wrapped around her shoulders like living fire. The night sky had turned red. Strange black ships moved like giant shadows through the clouds, sending down beams of crackling blue energy. Every explosion shook the city like a heartbeat of fear. Maya swallowed hard. She had never seen war. She had never seen a city scream. The dragon pressed its head against her cheek, sharing warmth. Its breath came out in small sparks. Even though it was small, it was not weak. She felt its courage inside her mind like a bright flame. The dragon whispered to her in feelings, not words. It sent her pictures, dragons flying through skies long ago, forming shields of fire, using ancient runes to create protective barriers. Maya whispered back, "I don't know how to do that." The dragon responded with a gentle push of warmth. It believed she could learn. Behind her, the emperor and guards arrived on the balcony. They stared at the black ships in horror. One guard shouted, "They're deploying ground units." Dark pods shot from the enemy ships and smashed into the streets below, releasing armored creatures with metal claws and glowing helmets. The city lights flickered as they spread through the roads, like spiders crawling into every corner. The emperor clenched his fists helplessly. "We do not have the power to stop them." He looked at Maya, his voice breaking. "Only the dragon can fight them. But it is too small. Too young." But the dragon was already moving. It climbed onto Maya's head, eyes glowing brightly. The golden runes on the palace walls flickered in answer, as if recognizing its command. The baby dragon opened its mouth and let out a tiny roar. A small flame appeared. It wasn't big, but it was a live, true dragon fire. The flame shot forward and hit the sky, forming a glowing symbol. Maya gasped. It was a runa dragon rune drawn with fire itself. The symbol pulsed, then spread into a wide golden circle in the air. The emperor stepped back, stunned. That's a shield rune." The golden circle expanded until it covered the entire palace. Enemy energy beams hit the shield and bounced back with sparks that rained over the rooftops. The baby dragon swayed tiredly, almost falling. Maya caught it in her arms. "You did great," she whispered. "But how do we fight them all?" The dragon pressed its forehead to hers. Images flowed into her mind again, deep caves filled with dragon flames, ancient songs that taught power, symbols drawn by claws on mountainsides. She understood. The runes weren't just drawings. They were commands. Commands that needed a voice, her voice. Maya placed the dragon gently on the stone railing. Then she stepped forward, raised both hands, and closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. She began to speak, not in English, not in alien language, but in dragon tongue, soft, rolling, ancient. A language no living creature had spoken for 10,000 years. Golden air gathered around her words. The runes in the sky shifted. The shield strengthened. The baby dragon chirped loudly, proud and excited. The emperor watched in disbelief. The child is activating ancient magic. Down below, an explosion rocked the city. Maya opened her eyes, tears forming. She whispered to the dragon, "We need more help. We can't do this alone." The dragon looked at her, then at the glowing symbols in the sky. It sent one final image into her mind. An enormous tree in a forest, roots wrapped around stone, nests filled with ancient eggs, all cold and dark. Maya nodded slowly. "There are more eggs." The dragon blinked. "Yes." She turned to the emperor. "We need to go to the old forest. There are more dragon eggs sleeping there." The emperor almost collapsed in shock. "If dragons return, the universe will change." Maya wiped her face, holding the dragon close. "The universe already changed. The enemy is here." The sky cracked open again as another black ship descended lower, firing beams toward the palace shield. The shield wavered, flickering dangerously. The baby dragon hissed, tired, weak but refusing to close its eyes. Maya grabbed it firmly and stepped back inside the tunnel. "Come on," she whispered. "Let's go wake your family." The ground shook as another enemy beam struck the shield. They had very little time left, but for the first time in 10,000 years, a human and a dragon walked together into the dark toward hope, toward danger, toward destiny. The forest stretched far and deep, ancient and quiet, with trees that looked older than the stars. Their roots twisted through stone, covering hidden caves and secrets long forgotten. Maya stood at the edge of this wild place, the baby dragon on her shoulder, its golden eyes scanning every shadow. Behind her, the Emperor's fastest flyer hovered quietly, waiting. He had given Maya one pilot, one ship, and one mission, because he now understood that the old world could not fight the new war. Only the child and her dragon had a chance. They stepped forward into the woods. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. Golden lights flickered between the trees, like fireflies with memories. Maya walked slowly, feeling the forest welcome her. The dragon whispered into her mind, sending pictures rocks that glowed, old nests hidden in roots, and a deep chamber where fire still slept. They reached it by dusk. A cave opened in front of them, hidden under the roots of a giant tree. Maya stepped inside without fear. The dragon's light lit the path. Inside, stone walls shimmered with ancient runes. But unlike the palace, these runes were dim, cracked, and silent. Then she saw them 6 dragon eggs, curled in a circle like sleeping stars. Some were dark. Some still pulsed faintly. But none had hatched. The baby dragon climbed down from Maya's shoulder and approached the closest egg. It pressed its snout against the shell and let out a soft breath like a sigh made of flame. The egg didn't move. Maya knelt beside it. She touched the cold shell and whispered, "Wake up. Please, we need you." Nothing happened. The baby dragon looked up at her. Then, slowly, painfully, it climbed to the center of the cave, between all the eggs. It lowered its body, closed its eyes, and began to hum not with sound, but with its fire. Its light spread gently across the cave. A soft golden warmth, pure and fragile. The runes on the cave walls flickered. The air shimmered. And then one egg stirred. A crack appeared. Then another. Maya gasped. One by one, the eggs began to glow, their hearts pulsing slowly like ancient drums. Outside the cave, the sky shook. A giant explosion bloomed far away, the capital under attack again. The shield was failing. The palace would not last. But in the forest, something older than war was waking. The eggs cracked open, one after another. 6 baby dragons stepped into the world, weak and confused. They looked around, eyes blinking in the light. Maya approached them slowly, her voice kind and calm. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe now." The first baby dragon hers let out a proud roar. The others answered, their voices soft but rising. In the distance, enemy ships began closing in. Dark drones flew toward the forest, sensing energy. Maya turned to the dragons. "They're coming. I need your help." The dragons looked at her, and one by one, they bowed. Golden light surrounded her. The runes on the cave walls burst into life. The ground trembled. A storm of fire rose from the forest canopy seen from miles away. The enemy drones entered the airspace. They never came out. Flames rained from the sky like shooting stars. In the capital, the Emperor stared at the sky. The clouds above the forest turned gold. A shape moved within them, then 6 more, dragons, real dragons. And below them, a small human figure flying with wings of fire beside them. The palace shook from another enemy blast, but this time, the sky shook back. The dragons rose together, breathing fire, sending runes across the heavens. Maya led them, not as their master, but as their voice. Together, they faced the black ships. Together, they lit up the night. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the stars saw dragons dance again, not in fear, but in freedom. And all because one small human child picked up a piece of chalk and began to draw.